So in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the odds and ends that I didn't get to talk about in 2024. These are pens that I found to be interesting for some reason, but they just didn't fit into sort of the videos I was doing throughout the year. So now we'll do an end of the year cleanup and we'll run through them. It's a bunch of pens this year, so we'll try to move pretty quickly. First up, we have this. This one is called the Ink. That's INC, and it's the R2. You can see it's a pretty typical capped rollerball. Looks fairly standard, and it's not really a brand I was familiar with before. I don't know, maybe earlier this year, maybe halfway through the year, kind of stumbled on it. It seems like it's a popular brand on Amazon. So I picked up a pack of their rollerballs. They're sold in this. It's just kind of a standard 2-pack. And I've been playing with it a little bit. And it is very reminiscent of a sort of like a Staples or Office Max or one of those big box stores when they have their own branded rollerballs. I remember like the True TRU Red or whatever that brand is. They had a couple branded rollerballs this year or maybe last year that felt like this. And it is just a sort of like non-distinct as far as the like aesthetically goes. But it's a really wet rollerball, puts down a lot of ink, smooth enough, nothing to like write home about, and just like very high level of legibility. So very classic rollerball, sort of a watery ink, and kind of interesting choice. I don't think it's refillable. I don't think it comes apart. It's kind of like, again, it's like kind of dated, but definitely interesting. So this is a brand I'm going to keep an eye out for. An interesting pickup, not anything to write home about. Next up, there's this. This is called the Promarx Megabold 1.6. Packaging looks like this. Again, not a brand I was familiar with. Sold in a 3-pack. And it's probably sold on Amazon and eBay and stuff like that. It is a 1.6 millimeter, so very thick rollerball. The body is pretty bad. It's like, it doesn't look great. Looks kind of cheap. The button is like barely functional, kind of misses a lot. You have to push it in really far. Clip isn't great, but I'm always curious about a 1.6 millimeter ballpoint. You don't see a ton of them, and like the end comes apart. Again, this is pretty cheaply built, and look at this thing. It's like clearly too long for the packaging. So this is not something, again, to like really hunt down or anything like that. But when I see a pen brand that I'd never heard of before, you know, I try to pick up one of their things and just to kind of see how it goes. It's not a great writer. It's not as good as a Bic Crystal. The Crystal 1.6, of course, is like the Hall of Fame ballpoint, but also the best 1.6 millimeter I know about. This one's not as good as that. Sort of a little bit inconsistent of a writer. It doesn't have the sort of line quality the Bic does unless you apply a lot of force. If you want a 1.6 millimeter ballpoint, get the Bic. This one is like, it's interesting that other people are doing it, but it's not great. Also, Zebra has one in a 1.6, which is better than this, but not as good as the Bic Crystal. So that's the Promarx Megabold. Interesting, and I appreciate that people are making an attempt, but not recommended. Here we have the Hauser XO, which I think if you've been watching this channel, you know it's an Indian pen that I really like. And then I think it was this year they dropped it in a gel version. Typically it's a ballpoint, kind of like a Jetstream, like a hybrid ballpoint. And now it's available as a gel. So I was pretty excited. I like these pens a lot. They are like kind of like understated, a little bit cheap looking, but kind of nice too. And it comes in this, is kind of like a little bit strange color scheme, which I find pretty appealing. Uses that sort of light blue from the other one, which is kind of like this, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it also has this sort of neutral body, so I thought it was interesting. And it has that sort of needle tip that it always has had, but now it's a gel refill. So it's a pretty nice writer. Not usually consistent, but generally speaking, it's been good to write on. I find that it works better on sort of like glossier papers, like a Rhodia or something like that. and then it's a little bit better, and it really does stand out. It has a nice gel ink. It's a little bit scratchy, but pretty good color, and they're affordable. They're a little bit hard to find still, but you can get them on Amazon and eBay. And I wouldn't say it's as good as the Hauser XO, the standard, the ballpoint version. That's definitely the way to go. But if you like that Hauser XO and you like the Hauser pens, then it's pretty cool they came out with it in a gel. It's not the best gel, but it definitely has had its moments. It comes with a lot of ink, which is really nice. These Hauser pens tend to last for a very long time, and have been quite affordable. So I definitely like them a lot, and I was curious to see this gel came out. Again, not the best gel out there, but it's a good pen and a good refill. So something to keep in mind if you need, a 12-pack for keeping around. And now that click is nice. In the past, it was kind of like smushed on there and it wasn't great. Now it's improved. So Hauser XO Gel, pretty interesting. Quickly, also from Hauser, this is the XO. So they have basically, the XO has become a family. It's not just one pen anymore, but this is called the XO Gel in Jumbo. So it's basically a larger version of what we just looked at. Moves from that needle tip to a conical tip, and it moves to a more standard rollerball body. This one, it writes similar. It might be a little bit better. Usually if you're moving from a needle tip to a conical tip, you're getting a little bit more smoothness out of it. So this is the Jumbo, and that is the normal. You could see they look pretty similar. I wouldn't really be able to tell. Maybe this one's putting out a little bit more ink. It's a little smoother, but moves to that more standard body. I think this looks really cool. It has that sort of stepped design. I think that's really well done. Nothing here, just some little like nubs here, but not a grippy material. And then here you can take this off, and you can see it uses a sort of a, I don't know if this is like a pilot style refill, not quite, it's too long, but it uses a higher end sort of refill. It might be the same refill, just in a fancy body, who knows. It looks a little bit like a Jetstream up here. So I haven't really tested this for interoperability, but it is refillable. If you could find the refills, it might be hard to do out of India, but interesting pickup and a pretty good gel pen. This is a little bit nicer of a pen than the Hauser XO, but I like the Hauser XO better. I just think it's a more interesting. Also in the capped rollerball pen world, we have this. This is called I think the pen company is called Morning Glory, and the pen is called the Promarx, and this is the 0.3 millimeter. Maybe it's the Promarx, and the pen's called the Morning Glory. I can't quite recall, but it's not like a pen brand. It's not like a major pen brand, Morning Glory. But I picked this up just because, again, it's a brand I had never heard of before in the pen world. I just usually pick up one or two of their pens, just see what's going on. So this is a capped rollerball with a very, very skinny needle tip. Just for reference, here's that other needle tip we just looked at. You see it's like twice as thick at least as this. And it's a 0.3 millimeter, so very skinny for a rollerball. Typically, you're not seeing that outside of a gel pen or some of the newest ballpoints. You don't really see that in a rollerball. Has clear body, has some indicators for fill, and clear cap. Pretty good looking. Again, a little bit dated. And I've had this one for probably over a year now, and I just haven't really used it much because I don't really love it. And also, I don't really have a need for a very skinny rollerball. If I want something usually skinny, I'm usually using a gel or like a Jetstream Edge or something like that. It's like, why would I need a skinny pen and a rollerball? It's not something that comes up much, so I haven't used it a ton, but pretty interesting. And, it is a pretty functional pen. So if you're looking for a 0.3 millimeter rollerball, there's not a lot of competition out there, so it might be something you want to pick up. Now we have this. This is one that is not available in the US market, but I thought it was interesting. It's a Pentel iZee 0.7 millimeter. And I don't know that this is an exceptional pen in any way. It's just kind of a standard Pentel ballpoint. I had just never seen it before. Has a sort of like hex type pattern here. It's all hard plastic. Metal clip. It's not spring loaded. It's split here, which is interesting. The pen looks a whole lot like a Uniball 1, which I happen to have one right here. Some of the Uniball 1s have rubberized grip, some do not. Aesthetically, I would say it's like pretty spot on. I don't know if the iZee came out before the Uniball 1 or what. Just picked it up because I happened to see it in a stationery store over the summer. Not too much else to say. Kind of a interesting release from Pentel, but really only interesting in like an academic standpoint. It's not notable as a pen in any way. It's kind of a budget ballpoint that you might pick up in an emergency situation, or you'd use to sign a receipt at a store. That's kind of about it. But that's the Pentel iZee. Okay, and here we have this. This is called the 0G pen. It's a Korean pen sold in, this is a 1.0 millimeter. I think it's also sold in a 0.38 millimeter, maybe some other sizes, who knows. And this is one of those kind of like made for lefty pens where it is at a strange offset and a little bit of a weird angle. It has a triangular grip, so it wants you to hold it like this. You couldn't really hold it like this because you have to pinch forefinger here, thumb here, rounded area here. And it is supposed to help with certain types of writers. And I'm sure when I bought it at the time, I had read about it. I haven't really found it to be very appealing. It's kind of too strange for me. And I think if you kind of have more of a hook type grip or whatever, maybe it's for that. You could do your research. But as far as how it writes, it's a very standard ballpoint, pretty smooth, not that bad, not at the level of a Jetstream or a Pilot Acro, but it's sufficiently good. And it's a well-made pen. It actually looks pretty cool. I kind of like it. Obviously, this part is like kind of reminds me of a Concorde with that kind of like drop nose, but I just like how it looks with the yellow and the white. And this grip looks very cool. And you can refill it. This comes off. And you can see the refill is, let's see if I can pop it out. Anyway, the refill is kind of turned here, so it requires a specialized refill. So not something that has appealed to me, but if you're looking for improved writing and you have the right grip for it, again, put something in the comments if you've used this before and you could explain what you're using this for, what it's not good for. But that's the 0G, and it's sold in a line of ballpoints. Again, interesting one, but you probably could understand the trend here about why this didn't make the cut for things that we discussed on the channel this year. Okay, so next we have the Link Pentonic G-RT. And basically Link is an Indian pen company, and they have a line of, they're like cooler pens. They're called the Pentonic. And we've talked about that before as a capped ballpoint, and now it's sold in a retractable version. And the G-RT is, I think, the newest and sort of coolest of their pens. You can see it uses a premium looking body, integrated button and clip. It's not good, but it looks cool. Has sort of like a rotring type look here. See the color indicator here, which is nice. That really interesting fluted grip. I think that looks really nice. And then the clear protector here. And this is rubberized, premium gold logo. It's definitely a step up from what I would think of as coming from Link or coming from the Pentonic line as a whole. Looks great. Has a big gel refill in it, and it's sort of like kind of like the higher end version of the Pentonic, which is like very similar to the Hauser XO moving to a gel and coming out with the Jumbo. Now we see the Pentonic moving to the gel, which is a really pretty nice writer. Definitely they've upped their game there. And with the premium body design, if we open this up, we can see it uses a nice clear plastic there. This kind of big gel refill in there. And just an overall better build quality than typically what you've seen from Link. And of course, the Pentonic is sort of their premium line. So this is in keeping with that, but I would say a step up from the previous pens in that line. So that's the G-RT, and something we'll probably be talking more about on this channel. So you're seeing a really nice array of pens coming from some of these Indian pen companies. This is a pen that came out this year from Faber I bought a 12-pack of these and kind of took a flyer on them. It's called the Fast Gel Z. I don't know if it's a US market pen or not, but you can find them in the US. I got it in blue and 0.7 millimeter, and looks like a pretty standard retractable pen. Has a needle tip, which is cool. Has a soft rubberized grip, which I really don't like. It looks filthy just all the time. It just picks up hair and dust and fuzz from everywhere. And being black, it looks so dirty all the time. This front piece, even though it's screwed down all the way, there's a gap there. So that's annoying. And you want to just tighten it, but it doesn't tighten anymore. It's just the tolerance there is just not great. This rubber piece should just be a little bit larger, I guess. And I guess I didn't do any videos about this pen just because I didn't find it to be particularly notable or even that great. But I will say it has an interesting refill in it. Again, needle tip and 0.7 millimeter, but it has this really smooth writing, really dark blue ink. You can see it next to this and this. This is just a standout blue, kind of like really pops. This one is a little bit lighter here, a little bit green tinted. This one is like kind of more of a navy. This is like a true blue with a nice pop to it, and it is putting down a really nice line. I don't really think of Faber Castell as kind of having any sort of like really standout refills or inks, but I found this one to be really a good writer. So even though I don't like the pen, I've been trying to find some uses for these refills. And I bought like a 12-pack of them. So I have these refills I've been trying to put in some places. I use that weird blue stopper there, or blue follower, which you don't really see. And it's a pretty standard refill, but it's a little on the short side, so I haven't found any good homes for it yet, but something I've been playing with because I do like these refills a lot. Just a pretty interesting gel refill. So I wouldn't really recommend these pens, but it might be worth trying. It might be worth picking up one or two if you could find it, just to play these refills. Again, pretty interesting. Not amazing, but just a fun one, and I was happy to have tried this one out, even though I don't love the pen. This one is called the Sunstar, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. This is the Bandai Namco Tank 0.5 millimeter capped rollerball. So this is one I saw on some of the sellers, like some of the online pen sellers. And usually they have, Uni Mitsubishi and Pilot, and they don't have as many of the smaller brands. And this one is weird because, again, needle tip, capped rollerball, really wide body, 0.5 millimeter, so on the small side for rollerball, and it's called the Tank, which is because it's a large capacity gel pen. So it's not, a gel pen is a type of rollerball, but it's not a true rollerball. And you could see that it's essentially like you've filled up the entire body with ink, which is a tremendous amount of gel ink relative to a standard skinny little refill, which would be like half the diameter of this, and usually not even filled up this much. So you're getting just a giant amount of ink, and so I found that to be interesting. Again, probably not required. Usually losing these pens before, or a part of it is breaking before using all the ink, but I just found it to be interesting. And then it's sold by Bandai Namco. I feel like that's a video game company, but I could be completely wrong, or maybe it's a different company. Again, there you go. It is manufactured by Sunstar, like I said, so I wasn't way off there. I don't know if it's a co-brand with Bandai Namco, or Bandai Namco owns Sunstar. I honestly didn't check, but 150 Japanese yen, so quite cheap. I don't know what it sells for in the US, maybe like $4 or $5. And it's not a great writer, which I guess is maybe I'm burying the lead there, but it's not a great writer. It's too light, and it's kind of inconsistent. And this one I need to play with a little bit more. So it's not been writing well. So even though I've had this one for a few months, I haven't used it a ton, because it's not been a great writer. Let's see if we can get a good ink sample. It's definitely on the light side. Let's call it the Sunstar Bandai. Is that AI maybe? Namco Tank. 0.5 millimeter. And it's a little bit light. And I don't know why you would make it such a light writer if you have such a tremendous capacity of ink. You might as well go and make it, you know, a nice, generous writer. But clearly this one is kind of light. It doesn't look great. Legibility is like and it's a little bit scratchy. Kind of a weird looking stepped needle tip. So interesting idea, and I would say flawed execution with the tank. Lastly, we have this. This is a Sakura Ballsign ID 3C. So basically you have the Sakura, and they came out with this like Ballsign line. That's their gel pens, and they're typically known for their sort of like art style capped gel pens. These guys are like the inventor of the gel pens, essentially. Then they came out with the Ballsign ID that uses this sort of rounded over clip and this sort of like general styling that is now available in a 3-color. I really didn't like the standard Ballsign ID. It had a push button, which I didn't like. And I just felt it to be kind of a like it just needed a little bit more time, a little bit more thinking to it. It wasn't a great writer, and the body was pretty low quality. But now with this 3-color, this 3C, so now we have this sort of 3-color, and I just like the body design a little bit more. I think this clip is interesting, has this cool looking sticker on it, and it's not that wide. It's a little bit wide even for a multi-pen, but it's not that wide. It has some little slight indentations here, so you could have it sort of, basically it's like a circle that's shaved off on 2 sides, which is pretty cool. I just like them putting a little bit of thought into it. It has these little slides, which are more functional than they look, and I think it's a pretty classy setup. And the coloring on them, of course, is confusing. We have red, that's clearly black, and that is what? That's black too. What's the deal with that? You know, I thought it was 3-color. I think this is actually, if you look at it really closely, I think it's a very dark green. I don't know what that says in Japanese, but I found that to be confusing. Like usually it's black, red, blue, or black, red, and green. I think we've all sort of agreed on the 3-color pen situation, not like super, super, super dark green, but probably black and red. Like who knows what's going on there. If you look at the refills when you're writing, let's start with this one here. Then we'll move over to the next one. Now we'll do the last one. So at this point, you could basically say, I think that's a really dark green. Here we have clearly a black, and then a nice red. There's a nice pop to it. So again, it's a very confusing setup, but it's an interesting pen and one that I've kind of been enjoyed using, even though, again, I found this Ballsign ID line to be really underwhelming previous to this one. Refills here are pretty standard refills, nothing really to talk about there. The pen body, again, has some interesting touches to it, like the flattened edges, metal tip, cool wraparound clip, and pretty nice sliders. And then look at this Ballsign right there. That's nice. The sticker, I don't know. I think the sticker just looks cool. So some good touches, even though I would say that Sakura needs to spend a little bit more time thinking about their Ballsign ID series. And we know they can because they have that Crepas, the C-R-E, I'll just write it down, the C-R-E-P-A-S line of high-end, metal executive pens. So, they could apply some of that thinking to some of these cheaper pens. I think they would be in a really good spot. Okay, so that is the end of the 2024 cleanup. Talking about the pens that just didn't make it to any videos this year that I wanted to talk about. I would say of these, the iZee and the Promarx, the R2, this is the Promax, don't need any of those. The 0G might be interested if you're a lefty or have the sort of grip that would require it. Again, didn't appeal to me. The Hauser XO Jumbo Gel, solid, but not really worth tracking down. I do like the Pentonic G-RT. This is one I would say is notable. The Faber Castell Fast Gel Z, Interesting refill, not interesting pen. Skip the Sakura, basically. Skip the tank. And then I do like the Hauser XO Gel. I think these are just like kind of cool in this weird color. Like, what is this? Is this like taupe? So such a strange color. I just like found it appealing. I'd say these two are ones that you might want to keep an eye out for. So yeah, it's the end of the year. Thanks for watching.